The Don Kroah Show on WAVA. You know, many of you at least, and certainly in Maryland, Tuesday, June 2nd, important day. Marylanders going to the polls for the state's 2020 presidential primary election. According to the Maryland State Board of Elections, it's going to be primarily a vote-by-mail election. They do say that those unable to do that can vote in person on Election Day at the particular vote center for your jurisdiction, wherever you may be living. Among those seeking your vote on the 2nd of June, my guest right now, Tim Fazenbaker. Tim is running for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives to represent Maryland's District 2. Tim, thanks for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you, Don, and don't worry, everybody gets my name wrong.
Well, I have a name like Crow, and seldom do they get that right when they see how I spell it. So we deal with what we have to, right?
Exactly, yes.
I'm very interested in your candidacy, but more than that, let's get into, for folks who don't know about you, tell us about yourself, your background. You're a Baltimore native. I believe you graduated from Towson. What else can you tell us about your life kind of up to this point that's made you crazy? I mean, I was going to say crazy enough to run for Congress.
Yeah, I'm a former executive in the mental health care field. And I have 5 children, a military family. And I didn't want to get into politics until I noticed things happening on a local level that were kind of matching what we saw on the national level, and it was corrupt. And I started saying, I've had enough of all this stuff that's going on. So I took what I knew, which was basically that I cared, and I started going to meetings, and then all of a sudden, my message started to resonate and catch on. And it was all because I said, I want to put our kids first. I want our communities to come first. And that message really resonated. And then all of a sudden, the campaign kind of blew up to where it is right now. You know, there's a national movement here, and this seat is highly contested now, and it's possible, and I will say quite possible, that this seat will flip and we'll give back the House to the Republicans because of this seat right here in District 2.
That's an important point to make. In fact, or what was the California had a flip last week? A woman stepped into. Julie's putting it up on the screen now. I'm trying to remember the name,
Hill.
but yeah,
Katie Hill. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that I think gives a lot of hope to us because, Virginia Commonwealth, as you know, your neighbors over here, we have suffered from the stranglehold of the Democrats already just in the last couple of years since they've gained ascendancy and control for the first time in, 25 years. We're paying a price for it, in my view.
Yeah, I never thought I would say that Maryland is the most conservative state in this region. But Unfortunately now, when Virginia went so far left, the government, not the people generally, but it matched what was really going on in D.C. and in Baltimore. And we see here in Baltimore, in this region, you know, the corruption, the murders, everything that you've been seeing on the news. It hurts us because we love Baltimore. We love this region. We love being close to D.C. and we're proud of this heritage. But all the bad stuff that goes on and everybody sees it, it's one of the first questions when I do like national media and they say, hey, is Baltimore as bad as it seems? And it is. And we want to fix that. And the people here have had enough. We've had 70 years of left-wing rule. You know, in some spots there's not one Republican elected to anything. This is the time that we can actually change things. And it doesn't matter about the party. I mean, it's all about the culture and fixing what's been going on. We can fix this, and we definitely will. I can't wait until we put this region back on the map for positive things.
Well, we all know that saying ideas do matter, and of course you say if you want to look at what socialism really brings, your proud city is a case in point, right?
Yeah, I mean, 70 years, we saw when Elijah Cummings was alive, there was tons of money that was missing. Things have been worse, and that's why when we're in, you know, those regions, and I have parts of Baltimore in this district that I'll be representing, you know, I say to the people, you know, is life better? And they're like, no. I'm like, have you had enough? And they are saying yes, because they realize everything they've been voting for has been coming true, but it's been getting worse. So now it's a time to pivot and go in a different direction. Now, as everybody says, the definition of insanity is to continue doing the same thing and expecting a different result. It's time now that people are waking up and saying, we're going to try a different path.
Now, you've also been pushing something called American Kids First. You said at the outset that's a top priority for you, our kids. their futures. What is that all about?
Yeah, so my philosophy, and it kind of, even before Donald Trump came onto the scene with America First, it was always about having a strong foundation. And it starts with the children. So if we don't put our kids first, if we give our resources to illegals who are coming in here over our own children, that's immoral. That's setting us up for disaster in the future. So you have to take care of your own. And then if you can take care of your own kids and your own family, you can take care of your neighbors, your block, your community, your city, and your state and your country. So I've always said what we need to do in order to flip a lot of things, say like in the city of Baltimore, is we need to really invest in the children, because once those children grow up and they are a good, productive, member of society, then businesses want to come back into these places, but they're not going to want to come back in unless you have an educated workforce that's productive and that they can rely on, and somewhere that's safe. And we don't see that in a lot of these liberal-run cities. We don't see it really anywhere, because liberalism, socialism leads into this path that we see across this nation, where these cities are in bad shape, and it's time we're going to fix this.
Talking with Tim Fazenbaker, and that's his website, his name, Tim, FAZENBaker.com. You can check it out further. Talk about some of the other important issues. I mean, I know you're strong on Second Amendment rights. Obviously, you're have a military family. You're part of a military family. So I've often said that I think our veterans have, for too many years, for too long, gotten the short stick, so to speak, and been shortchanged in a lot of ways. What are some of the areas of that sort that you're going to be dealing with if you get the chance to do it?
Yes, I'm very proud to say that I've been endorsed by Veterans for Donald Trump, and I'm a non-veteran, but I come from a military family, and I'm the first non-veteran to receive that endorsement from them, and that's because I've done so much to put our veterans first. Just like I was saying about our kids. We need to take care of kids, veterans, our elderly, disabled, those really in need. And down here, we're in District 2, in the heart of it, we have Fort Howard, and we used to have a medical center for veterans. And it's one of two hospitals not going back to veterans. It's going to private use. The other one happens to be in California. So, I've been pushing long and hard to say we need to give back these resources to our veterans and not have a corporate welfare coming in and benefiting off of this stuff. Let's take care of our own first. And people notice that, and we continue to fight for it. So the veterans are a major factor in what I want to do, because this is a historic area. Obviously, the War of 1812, the Revolutionary War. We need to do what's right for the veterans as well. Also, another thing is here, the congressional people will not work with President Trump. And I've said, most of the country prior to this pandemic, they were thriving better than this region because they wouldn't work with President Trump. They couldn't bring back the resources needed because they refused to. So I'll work with President Trump. I'll work with any president to make sure that it's all about bringing back what's needed for the people here in the right way, like another major steel plant like we used to have with Bethlehem Steel, which is now gone. But we see other places around the nation that are doing well, and their steel production is going up. Unfortunately, it's not here. So those are some major factors that are going on in this region.
Talk about the Kerwin bill. What's that?
Yeah. So the Kerwin bill is a $40 billion, yes, $40 billion with a B, tax increase based around the emotional aspect of our schools. Now, 18 years ago, we had something similar where they raised taxes, and our school systems actually were the only one in the country that went backwards with results. So now they want $40 billion. And they passed this bill, including some of the Republican senators in this state, to funnel all this money basically into teachers' unions and executives and these types of things. We all know that you have major cities like Baltimore, which is, I believe, the third most funded school system in the entire country, and their results are terrible. It's not the money. What it is we have to have a proper system in place where we teach constructive thinking and critical thinking. I have a lot of teachers that work on our team, and they tell me the struggles that they have. Throwing money into this is not the solution. It's actually changing the entire culture and going back to the American kids first. It's starting at the basic level of fundamentally changing what's been going on. So that was unbelievable that they passed that. Luckily, the governor did veto it, but they could override this in the upcoming months. So it's a hot topic here, and especially with the pandemic going on and people out of work, it's unbelievable that they would pass something like this.
I know you're strongly concerned about any federal money being used for abortions. You want to elaborate on your position there?
Yeah. I always say people, just about everybody can agree that infanticide or late-term abortions are wrong, and they can agree that they don't want to pay for something they don't believe in. So to force somebody to pay, through taxes or whatever for abortions is just wrong all across the board as well. Here in Maryland, they passed their state budget, which also allows for state-funded and taxpayer-funded abortions. And all people, including most Republicans, all but 8, actually voted for this. It's unbelievable. So regardless of where you stand on abortion, and I'm pro-life, regardless of where you stand on it, it's how can you force other people to pay for something that they morally think is wrong? And that has to change, and that's why I'm glad that I was able to bring that to a lot of people's attentions, because they never would have realized what actually was happening behind the scenes.
Well, keep up the good work, my friend. I know there's a lot more we could talk about. I'm going to encourage folks to check out your website as well, but perhaps again between now and June we'll be able to do that, talk and chat a bit more. Thank you.
That sounds great, Don, and as always, American kids first.
All right, Tim Fazenbaker, candidate for the U.S. House to represent Maryland's 2nd District. And you can check his website out at his name, timfazenbaker.com. Tim Fazen, FAZENBAKER.com. Stay with us. We have more here on The Don Kroah Show.